would benefit.
Well,
And otherwise, it's a real short lived.
The Tuesday, July 5th, 2022 regular meeting of the Gardner City Council will come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilor Boone? Councilor Boudreaux?
present.
Councilor Craig Cormier?
Present.
Councilor Ronald Cormier?
Present.
Councilor Derlowitz?
Present.
Councilor Hardern?
Present.
Councilor Heath?
Present.
Councilor Mapp?
Present.
Councilor Tyros?
Present.
Councilor Walsh?
Present.
and President Kaczynskis.
Present. Please rise to recite the opening prayer and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Almighty
God, we thank thee for bringing us together this evening. Inspire us to worthy deeds and sound decisions, and direct us toward the attainment of good city government. We pray thee to bless and protect all the people of our city, and so guide and inspire us that we may deliberate in unity and harmony. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcement of open meeting recordings. Any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium subject to reasonable requirements of the chair as to the number, placement, and operation of equipment used so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Any person intending to make such recording shall notify the chair forthwith. All documents and exhibits used or referenced at the meeting must be submitted in duplicate to the chair as they become part of the meeting minutes pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. Is anyone here recording tonight's meeting? We will begin with the reading of the minutes of prior meetings, reading and approval of the minutes of the May 16th, 2022 regular meeting, June 6th, 2022 informal meeting, and June 6th, 2022 regular meeting. Is there a motion? Councilor Ron Cormier.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the minutes of May 16th, June 6th, and informal meeting, June 6th, regular meeting, and accept them as presented.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Councilor Ron Cormier, seconded by Councilor Walsh to waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes. There are no public hearings. Communications from the mayor. Mayor Nicholson, I would like to invite him up to just first begin to speak regarding the taxes and the tax rate. We got a communication from him and he's going to speak publicly about it.
Thank you very much, Madam President and councilors. I know this isn't on the agenda there, but under Section 5 of the Charter, where the mayor can address the council on any city business at any time, I felt like it was important where this first quarter tax bills went out, just to give a brief overview of what we're seeing this year, mainly because it's something that we haven't seen in some time with the housing market as crazy as it has been over the past several years. We did put out a communication online on the city's website and social media platforms, and that is being mailed to all taxpayers in the city as well. The long and short of it is that we're seeing a little disconnect in where the different state statutes that oversee municipal taxation are having that disconnect now in terms of tax rates being set on a calendar year basis, valuations being set on a fiscal year basis, and the 5-year reevaluation process that we're seeing that we're required to do through the assessor's office. And what that means for us now is that state statute requires that for the valuations of property, it has to be a 2-year look back based on market trends from the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. This is something that has been in the laws for quite some time and actually stayed codified after the Municipal Modernization Act of 2016, even though that was originally proposed to be taken out. It's to a shorter time window for market sale trends there. What this means is if a current fiscal year, so for the current fiscal year 2023, the valuations are based off of how the housing market was performing in calendar year 2021. During that time, as someone who was looking for a house in that time period, houses were on the market for a couple of days, going for on average about $80,000 over asking in the city of Gardner. This resulted in what the state has notified the city of about a 19% increase in home valuations for the average home in the city of Gardner. And that had to take place per state law when the preliminary tax bills were released on July 1st. And we call them preliminary tax bills because, again, as we said, while the valuations are a fiscal year-based process, the tax rate that balances out those valuations by law are done on a calendar year process. This is because the state requires that all new growth, so any new construction done at the time the budget was not created at that time. So if someone adds an addition onto their house, a deck, or does a renovation or something like that that increases their property because of work being done and not the trends in the real estate market, that's all what falls into new growth. The Department of Revenue also has to certify that through a very regulated process as well. So the tax rate cannot be set until after that is certified. And that's why that can't be done until the December timeframe there. And it takes effect come January 1st when the third quarter tax bills even out. What this has resulted in the past 10 years is that the preliminary tax bills that are based off of last year's tax rate, which is the last one that we have set right now, versus the valuations that take effect on July 1, was that the preliminary tax bills were traditionally lower than the actual tax bills, which is the tax bills that are set after the new tax rate is set. But because of how crazy the market was in 2021, that has flipped this year. So we did want to make sure that the residents knew that you can't take the tax bill that you just received and multiply that by 4 and expect that that's your new yearly tax rate, because that's going to change. We're capped by Proposition 2.5 about how much we can take in every year in property taxes. So if we're capped at a certain amount and that portion of the fraction for valuations increases, the tax rate has to decrease, otherwise we go over what we're legally allowed to do. The way we've been describing it in our examples that we've been giving to the residents who have been calling is, for purposes of easy math, if you're being taxed at a rate of $12,000 a year, you can't just assume you're going to be paying $3,000 a quarter because that's the number that's divisible by 4. In this case, where you have the high tax rate from last year now coupled with the high valuations, you may have a $4,000 bill for your first 2 quarters, then the new tax rate gets set to match the new higher valuations, and now you have a $2,000 bill for the following 2 quarters. And we're expecting to see that here. There is a required statutory public hearing that has to take place when we do set the tax rate in December, in which the public will have a chance to come and voice their concerns on the tax rate. However, I can just mathematically, in order for this all to work, for the way the laws are set up, while they don't mesh in terms of timelines with each other, and if one goes up, in order to fix the other end of the fraction, the other half has to come down. So that's where the disconnect in state laws are. We're feeling that effect now on the local level, and we're hopeful that come December, when we certify new growth, which is projected to be higher than budgeted for already just because of the building permits that we're seeing, because new growth is also on a calendar year, not fiscal year basis, we're expecting to see a reduction in the tax rate. The tax rate has significantly gone down in the past 30 years. In 1980, it was $50.19. This past December, it was $18.59, which was lower than the year before at $20.62. So we do see it going down because values are increasing. But again, it's just we haven't hit that time where we're legally able to put up the tax rate before the city council for final approval. And that's why we're seeing the tax bills have that situation that we're in there. So if you notice, you received $150 increase in your tax bill for the first quarter, which is the average that we're seeing in the city. Don't multiply that by 4 is the message we're telling our constituents, because you're not going to get the actual number that you'll actually be paying because that tax rate just isn't set yet. So I want to thank the council for letting me address that, and thank you, Madam President, for recognizing me to do that. Where this is an interesting thing that we have not seen since the last time this happened was 2006, where preliminary tax bills were higher than the actual tax bills. I just felt it was important to address in a way so all of our constituents would be able to get the messaging to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appointments. Item 10735, a measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Lauren Walter to the position of permanent police sergeant. Councilor Tyros?
Thank you, Madam President. I move to refer this item to the Appointments Committee.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Tyros, seconded by Councilor Mack to refer the item to the Appointments Committee. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes. Item 10736, a measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Paulette Burns to the position of Board of Assessors member for term expiring July 1st, 2025. Councilor Tyros?
Thank you, Madam President. I move to refer this item to the Appointments Committee.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Tyros, seconded by Councilor Mack to refer the item to the Appointments Committee. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Ordinances. Item number 10737, an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Gardner, section 44-171, entitled Compensation in lieu of paid holidays. I would first like to call the mayor up to speak on this item. We did receive some supplemental material this afternoon in our email. We've been provided here on our desk this evening, but I would like to have the mayor speak on that first, please.
Thank you very much, Madam President and councilors. I did receive a request from a couple of the councilors to my office to provide the salary study that the city conducted in 2015 for non-union staff members and department head positions. A copy of this is included before you right now. We did print that and leave that to you, and it was emailed to the council earlier today as well. This is something that was conducted by an outside consultant by the previous administration. You'll note that on the white on the left-hand side of the page, that is the suggestion for the survey that was done by the outside consultant. In the middle column there, the previous administration made some changes based on their ideas on the positions and their roles of the consultant and the differences of opinions of those. Those are there. The color code for what the previous administration did is located at the bottom of the page. If it's green, the previous administration thought that the position should be increased from where the survey had it. If it's in orange, the previous administration thought it should be decreased from where the salary survey had it. You'll note that all positions included in the salary compensation schedule ordinance that is before you today are within the limits of that 2015 salary study. However, again, I do want to point out that this is several years old, as this was done in 2015. I do plan on looking at the feasibility of doing an additional compensation study moving forward. We have begun to solicit different quotes and bids for these positions. However, we're averaging between $40,000 to $65,000 for the 6 different companies that we've reached out to conduct a full salary survey, just because of the number of employees that we have here in the city. These surveys are done by sitting down with each individual who holds that position currently, having that individual fill out a questionnaire about the duties that they undertake, having an interview with that person to make sure that if something's missed in the written questionnaire, you get that across that way, and then comparing those positions to like positions across the Commonwealth and like cities to us. So Gardner wouldn't be compared to a Worcester or a Boston or a Springfield, but rather to a Greenfield or another community like those that when Dr. Pellegrino did the school budget presentation are considered demographically, economically, and socially similar to the city of Gardner in terms of our different varieties that build up those similar cities, and then the duties are compared to positions of like duties in those different municipalities that are there. So again, this is something that I do hope to update at some point in time, but these are the 2015 numbers that salary survey had there. And again, it's something that we're still following. All of the positions, again, like I said, that are included in tonight's ordinance are within the bounds, or generally within the bounds too, of the 2015 numbers. But when this was done too, you have to consider as well that the compensation for several employees was adjusted based on the salary back in fiscal 2016, and then you add in that those positions had received 2%, and then last year 2.5% cost of living adjustment in that same time frame too. So while these are the 2015 numbers, they may not line up with what you see right now in the schedule for some of those positions, and a lot of that can be the cost of living adjustments that have happened since 2015, calendar 2015, fiscal 16 to present day. But a lot of them are still within the metes and bounds of those 15 numbers, save 1 or 2 of those positions. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions when this come up as well.
Councilor Walsh?
Point of order, are we on 10737,
Yes.
which is a
Not what?
compensation in lieu of paid holidays?
But that's a different ordinance, Madam President.
I'm sorry. I called you up at the wrong time. I apologize to
Oh,
everyone for that. Not to
It
confuse
was a good
the council.
explanation.
Well, thank you, Jackson.
Not to confuse the council. I'm sorry.
I just want to be sure I was looking on the right.
You are in the right place.
In the
You
right
are in the
place.
right place, Counselor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to continue. So item number 10737, an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Gardner, section 44-171, entitled Compensation in lieu of paid holidays. Is there a motion on the floor? Counselor Generalowitz?
I move it to refer to the Finance Committee for further study and report.
Motion made by Counselor Generalowitz, second by Counselor Taros, to refer the item to the Finance Committee for further study and report. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Orders, item 10726, an order appropriating $65,000 from free cash to the fire department salary expense account. Counselor Walsh?
Yes, we have correspondence from the mayor explaining that we won't be able to appropriate money from free cash until it's certified again sometime in the late fall or early winter. And he's requested leave to withdraw, so I move that we grant the mayor leave to withdraw the item.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Walsh, seconded by Counselor Donalowitz to grant the mayor's request for a leave to withdraw for item number 10726. Is there a discussion on the motion? This does have to be a roll call vote, so and it is a regular majority vote, simple majority vote, but it does have to be roll call. So the clerk will please call the roll.
Council Boone? Oh, sorry, Council Boudreaux?
Yes.
Council Craig Cormier?
Yes.
Council Ronald Cormier?
Yes.
Council Donalowitz?
Yes.
Council Harder?
Yes.
Council Heath?
Yes.
Council Mack?
Yes.
Council Tyros?
Yes.
Council Walsh?
Yes.
And President Kuzinskis.
Yes.
10 yeas.
10 yeas, the motion passes. Communications, item 10738, a notification of the Mass Trails Grant Award. Is there a motion? Counselor Donalowitz?
I move to place the communication on file.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Donalowitz, seconded by Counselor Walsh to place the communication on file. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 10739, a notification of approval for vacant storefront program participation. Is there a motion? Counselor Donalowitz?
Move to place the communication on file.
Motion made by Counselor Donalowitz, seconded by Counselor Heath to place the communication on file. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Petitions, applications, communications, etc. Item number 10740, a petition by National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated, Keys Road, to install beginning at a point approximately 700 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of West Street, relocate pole number 2 across the street to accommodate for bridge construction and upgrade to a 45-foot class 2. Counselor Walsh?
Yes, I move that the president schedule a public hearing at a convenient time and that the item be referred to the Service Committee for study and report.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Walsh, seconded by Counselor Tyros to schedule a public hearing and refer the item to the Public Service Committee for further study and report. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes. Item 10741, a measure to elect a city treasurer and city collector of taxes effective August 19th, 2022. Counselor Ron Cormier.
Madam President, I make a motion that we refer this item to the Finance Committee for study and report.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Ron Cormier, seconded by Counselor Donalowitz to refer the item to the Finance Committee. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. There are no reports of standing committees, unfinished business, and matters for reconsideration. Item 10699, an ordinance to amend the Code of the City of Gardner, Chapter 171 thereof, entitled Personnel, to change compensation schedule, Exhibit E. Now, Mayor Nicholson's explanation from earlier goes along with this item, as I should not have written at the top of the page. Make sure I get some information from Mayor Nicholson. This does require a roll call vote, and it is 2/3 votes to pass. Mayor Nicholson, go ahead.
Everything I said earlier is the same for this vote now. If there are any other questions from the councilors, I'm certainly happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Nicholson. Councilor Walsh?
I do have a question of the mayor and perhaps for the Finance Committee if they are in a position to respond. The ordinance proposed and passed for first printing, I had the opportunity to review in greater detail. And it appears that for the positions identified in this ordinance, generally speaking, there was a cost of living adjustment of 2%. Is that correct, generally speaking?
That is correct, Councilor Jones.
There are a couple of positions, however, in particular the Human Resource Director, the proposed number is a roughly 10% increase, just under 10% increase, which represents a not a cost of living adjustment, but a raise. And I'm wondering what the justification for that is when all the other department heads are getting a cost of living adjustment rather than a raise. And similarly, with the Assistant City Solicitor, who does great work, and I have no quarrel with the work that the Assistant City Solicitor does, but the proposed increase represents just under 40% increase from what the current salary ordinance provides. I'm wondering what the justification for that is as well.
Happy to answer those, Madam President. if that's
Go ahead,
okay.
Mayor Nicholson, please.
There are 3 positions that were included in the city's budget that was adopted by the city council that did have a higher than cost of living adjustment raise, as we stated in the different subcommittee meetings. It's the Human Resources Director, the Assistant City Solicitor, and the Assistant Director of the Cable Access Television that we have. The position of the Productions Manager is what that position is called, is receiving a 5% adjustment due to added duties that are included in that position. Now that we have more access to YouTube productions, there's more different programming that's on the GETV station as a result of the new equipment that we purchased. If you remember, the city council did approve the purchase of about $150,000 of new equipment last fiscal year. So the Productions Manager already has experience working on this new system from his previous place of employment. That's why we've been able to grow our programming, grow our access through YouTube, grow our access through different public engagement channels, not just the previous engagement system that we had with the city's website on our video on demand program. So as a result of an addition of duties in that position, that was accounts for that increase that was there in the productions assistant that was approved in the cable department's budget. In the law department's budget, the assistant solicitor, as was stated at the different meetings, both the budget meeting, the council of the whole, and the finance committee meeting, when that budget was reviewed, there are several new duties that have been added to the assistant solicitor's position, mainly as a result of the Police Reform Act, but there are different other aspects there. If you look at the different public records requests that have come in this calendar year alone, we're about 2,500 records requests, where 2 years ago we were at 2,700 records requests for the full calendar year, so we were already just about matched a full year's worth. Again, a lot of that comes as a result of the mandatory reporting and things like that come with police work that the assistant solicitor or someone from the law department, the solicitor in other cases, are required to review because of the sensitive nature of police work as it is in general. Just if a police file is going to be made public, there are certain names and addresses that have to be redacted. There are certain topics that can't be made public, in which case, in any instance like that, in which a public records request does have a privileged document that cannot be made public because of a statutory exemption, a full written explanation and a log of how many pages it is, what's included in that, what exemption it's under, and what the legal reasoning for that is, has to be included per document. So if there's a public records request that has 15 of those in there, there's 15 different explanations that have to be done like that. There's different other aspects in terms of work in my office that have grown with the law department. If you've noticed, every time that we put up a proposal to the city council in terms of a ordinance legislation, there's always an already pre-written legal opinion from the law department, where before it used to have to be instances where there were things that came up where things may have had to been referred to the law department because of different questions that came up. Those are all being preemptively handled with now to try to get the full, better picture of all of that there. So those added duties have substantially increased what the assistant solicitor has done in the past several years. And we can kind of back that up with the data that we've been collecting and the work that's been done by those assistant solicitor positions. So that equates to that increase that's there from the $35,000 that it's at up to the $60,000 that's proposed, I believe, in this ordinance. I don't have the ordinance itself in front of me. In the human resources side of things, as other department heads have had their duties increased, there has been additional adjustments made to that position, consummate to the increase in duties that have been put forward. We saw those with the Director of Public Works when they took back the Water and Sewer Department. They got an increase in their compensation there. Back when the Director of Community Development and Planning also became the Executive Director of the Gardner Redevelopment Authority, they got a bump in pay for that work that's there. When the Treasurer Collector's position took on the collecting side of it instead of just the Treasurer's work, that position was adjusted to account for the extra work that's there. The Human Resources position in 2014 took on the work of doing the full HR work for the school department after they had a retirement that took place there. So that involves all onboarding costs, all scheduling of the mandatory physical and drug tests that we have, all of the setting up in the payroll system, all of the pay and timesheet work throughout that employee's employment. Those all get back up to the HR department. All of the benefits and voluntary insurances that we have, those are all run through the HR department for both the city and the school department. The school department does make up 2/3 of our city employees, so that was quite an added duty to those there. And back in 2015, the previous administration also assigned the oversight of the Greenwood Pool operations in terms of hiring lifeguards, ordering chemicals, overseeing the staff, the pool director, the different lifeguards that are there while they report to a supervisor, similar to what we have in several other departments like the DPW with the foreman and the laborers underneath them, the custodial staff with the maintenance workers and the general custodians underneath them. Those all still report to the HR director, as do the different custodial staff when they need it at the pools, to assist in opening the pool, assist in operating the filter system. If there's an issue with the building, those are all done through that department there too. When both of those additions were undertaken by this position and assigned to that position by that administration, there was no consideration for that given in the compensation for that position, as there had been for several other positions throughout the city during that time period. So speaking with representatives from the law department and different other, well, really just the law department that oversees, again, all of the legislation that we put up here, that was a discussion that was had, and that's the only position that we've had, that we've added duties but haven't provided that additional consideration for that position in recognition of the new added duties that were substantially added to that position. So that equates to the position there going back to when the additional duties were mainly added with the onboarding of the school department in 2014, some almost 10 years ago. So that equates to the 3 different positions that had those different increases that are there. If you do look at the compensation schedule, the salary survey that was provided by the consultant back in 2015, you'll notice that the Human Resources Director at the end does have a range between 80,000 and 101.6 in 2015 numbers. So the proposed amount that is in the compensation schedule is in line with the trends that we were seeing with the other positions that had increased duties there, because in the previous administration, as those increased duties were added, it basically moved from the minimum in that grade raise to the other side of that matrix that we have here, and that's what we saw with those other positions that are there. So those are those increases that are there. The preliminary explanations were done of those during the budget hearing, but I understand that there was everything else that was going on with those, and even this may seem confusing, so I'm certainly happy to answer any further questions that any of the councilors may have. But that was for the basis for those 3 positions that were receiving salary adjustments rather than just a cost of living adjustment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Nicholson. Councilor Walsh is.
I have no other questions at this time.
Thank you. And I know that Mayor Nicholson covered a lot of what we heard at the Finance Committee meeting, as well as the committee of the whole, but you did ask for the Finance Committee. Does the Finance Committee have anything to add? I know there was a lot in there that we had said. Okay, thank you. Councilor Mack?
I just have a question through the chair to the mayor. Is there a reason why the school is not absorbing part of the Human Resources Director as we do with other indirect cost of positions shared with these schools in the city?
That was actually brought up during the budget hearings. I think it's certainly something we can look towards in the future. It's one of those, the indirect costs that were associated there, the portions of the systems manager, the city auditor, the city treasurer, the purchasing agent, those that are overseen as the indirect costs of the schools, were included because they've been included for forever. I don't think we thought of it until it got brought up during the budget hearings, and that is something that my administration's already made a commitment to doing the next budget round, so that we can allocate in those different sectors. That way it counts towards minimum net school spending.
Thank you. Councilor Mack? Councilor Boudreaux?
Mayor, thank you for your words tonight, that it opened up a lot of what we already knew from the different meetings that we held over the course of the budget time. However, with you being a tenured municipal public servant, I do ask and implore you to consider following best practices, which state that a review would be 3 to 5 year with a complete salary survey every 5 to 7. That will both help us keep our own highly skilled employees from being siphoned off to other municipalities, and maintaining that the taxpayers are getting the best deal out of their municipal officials. So I ask you to look into that and consider bring that forward at a meeting in the future.
Thank you, Madam President. If I
Thank
just
you,
can
Counselor.
say to that, Madam President, I agree. That is what best practice per the state's, the state different offices in the governor's cabinet that oversee the different municipal regulations. That is actually suggested through the Division of Local Services, that every 5 to 7 years a full compensation study be done, as well as every 3 to 5 years reviewing the previous study that was done to making sure that that was right. That is why, as I mentioned earlier, we've been asking around to different firms for price quotes so that we can undertake that once free cash gets certified later in the fall. It just, with a price tag of $40,000 to $65,000, that's not something we can absorb in the regular budget, just starting out the fiscal year. But that is something that we do hope, mainly because too, there are positions, since this was done back in 2015, that no longer exist, and positions that have been made and created since 2015 too. So it'd be great to know things like the DPW business manager, the airport manager, different other positions that we've added since then, my executive aide in my office, where they would fall too, because they just simply aren't included in this study because they didn't exist back then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Nicholson. Thank you, Councilor Boudreaux. Further questions or anything further to add? Is there a motion?
Motion to rescind the second and final print.
Second?
Motion made by Councilor Ron Cormier, seconded by Councilor Donalowitz to send the ordinance to its second and final printing. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilor Walsh?
I've certainly been in favor of a 2% cost of living adjustment for all of the people covered by this ordinance. I have trouble accepting that whatever the additional duties are for the assistant city solicitor, that they justify a 40% increase in salary from what it is now, which is $46,597.10 up to $65,000. It's a 40% increase. Similarly, with the HR director, the current salary for the HR director is $92,613.29. The proposal is to put that at $102,000. So just under 10% increase. I find it difficult to justify that kind of increase when all the other very worthy department heads and other non-union employees are looking at a cost of living adjustment. I like the idea of a salary survey. We're certainly overdue for an update and probably due for a full reval of our salary structure. I did some quick calculations for the HR director position. A 2% increase would be $94,465. For the assistant city solicitor, a 2% increase would be $47,896.24. Those are, and if we're going to have a salary study, my suggestion is that, and if there's some support for this that the council indicates, I move that we amend the salary ordinance to those 2% numbers for those two positions, and wait for a salary study to see if any further adjustments are appropriate, rather than single out certain positions. I particularly find it difficult to justify a 10% increase for the human resource director based upon duties that were added in 2014, in which were under consideration at the time the salary study was done in 2015. So I have no quarrel with the human resource director. I just don't feel that treating that position differently for purposes of raises as opposed to cost of living adjustments is justified. And similarly for the assistant city solicitor's position. So I'd make that in the form of a motion if there's some support for that approach that is expressed by the councilors on the floor tonight.
I'll second that.
Motion made
I
by
haven't moved it yet.
Sorry.
I'm interested in knowing what people think about it. I appreciate Councilor Cormier's second, but I'm curious to know what others think about it before I move in that direction.
further discussion. Councilor Boudreaux?
My fear with that type of idea isn't necessarily with the human resources director, but with the assistant city solicitor, noting that it is difficult to find qualified municipal attorneys in this day and age where they can make a lot more money in different sectors. I would be nervous in noting that promising a employee a large raise for taking on additional duties is going to push them right out the door. With that, also on the other side of that coin is the idea that they are all municipal employees, myself included at my employment, are doing these jobs understanding that different elected authorities or legislative bodies are making decisions based off provisions put forward to them, and there are no such promises. So I'd be willing to look at it, but it does make me a little unnerved that we may putting ourselves at risk to losing a assistant city solicitor. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? Counselor Harden?
Yes, Madam President. I understand what Counselor Boudreau is saying, but I agree with Counselor Walsh. 40% is a big raise. You know, nothing against the assistant city solicitor. I'm sure it's a very difficult job and time-consuming, but that's a large raise. So I fully support what Councilor Walsh has said by amending.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? Counselor Cormier?
Through the chair to whomever can answer. How long did the salary survey take last time?
Counselor Walsh?
It was several months.
Yeah, they take a few months.
And the mayor may have better information.
Mayor Nicholson?
It takes about 6 to 8 months to complete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Cormier, anything further? Counselor Craig Cormier?
Nothing.
Counselor Mack?
I'm actually in agreement with Councilor Walsh's proposal to amend this because even just in the last 2 years, I think there are a lot of city employees that have taken on a lot of additional duties and haven't seen anything more than a 2% raise. And the other reason is if after the survey in 6 to 8 months, if it comes back to us, you know, for the next budget year, that something could be reconsidered at that time for a pay increase. But also, I mean, I've said this before, that the salaries of the city need to go into a step system. I mean, it's just, there needs to be more equitably pay scale throughout the city, all the department chairs, and they each go up, you know, based on experience and years of service, as they do in the school department and based on education. But I think that's something that's long overdue to be looked at, is our salary scale. Thank you.
Further discussion? Counselor Walsh?
Yes, addressing Councilor's concern about losing people. Anything that we do ultimately after a study is done can be retroactive to July 1st, 2022. And we've done that on numerous occasions in the past. We did it at the time that this salary study was done. We retroactively made adjustments. So I think that can be done. This is just done to treat everybody the same until a salary survey is done, so that, and if there are adjustments to be made and it should be done retroactively, we can address that at that time. And there may be, as Councilor Mack suggests, there may be other positions that are for which raises are warranted, and assuming we have the funds to do it, we should. So I would move at this time that for the position of Human Resource Director, that the number be amended to $94,465. And that for the Assistant City Solicitor position, that be amended to $47,896.24. That represents a 2% increase from the current salary items, with the expectation that the salary study will be pursued and adjustments will be made based upon that in accordance with the best practices of the divisional local services that is recommended this kind of thing. Thank you.
And I will second it at this time.
Thank you.
Motion to amend the ordinance by changing the HR director salary to $94,465 and the assistant city solicitor to $47,896.24. made by Counselor Walsh, seconded by Counselor Ron Cormier. Is there discussion on the motion? Counselor Cormier?
Briefly, fairness is the issue here. And it's not just the issue with the two individuals that we're talking about. We're not really talking about the individuals. We should be careful. We talk about the positions. But in that light, fairness also goes to all of our other employees who are subjected to a 2% raise. I think we've indicated this evening a very strong desire on the part of them. Maybe I shouldn't say I can speak for all of the councilors. There seems to be a sense by this body that we are, even if it's an expensive option, that a proper salary review be undertaken. It's long overdue. It's, as Councilor Boudreau so well put, it is a best practice item. And with that in mind, I will support the amendment.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? Counselor Tyros?
Thank you, Madam President. Counselor Ron Cormier took the words out of my mouth. I think I'm very proud of this council's debate on this topic, and will support the motion.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? Counselor General Alves?
Just echoing the same type of comments. I do look forward to seeing that formal study and where raises are necessary and warranted. I hope we take action at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? On the motion to amend, I'm going to have a roll call vote on this, please. The clerk will please call the roll.
Counselor Boudreaux?
Yes.
Counselor Craig Cormier?
Yes.
Counselor Ronald Cormier?
Yes.
Counselor General Alves?
Yes.
Counselor Harder?
Yes.
Counselor Heath?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Tyros?
Yes.
Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Present.
President Katsoukas?
Yes.
10 yeas.
10 yeas, the motion to amend passes. And the original motion, number 10699, an ordinance to amend the Code of the City of Gardner, Chapter 171 thereof, entitled Personnel to Change Compensation Schedule Exhibit E. Motion was made by Counselor Ron Cormier, seconded by Counselor General Alves, and now it's as amended. There'll be a roll call, so to approve it as amended, there'll be a roll call vote on this one as well, and this does require a 2/3 vote to pass.
And
Clerk.
it's a simple majority, I believe, for a second passage.
Salary.
It's a salary related, so it's roll call.
Salary would go.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Counselor Boudreaux?
Yes.
Counselor Craig Cormier?
Yes.
Counselor Ronald Cormier?
Yes.
Counselor General Alves?
Yes.
Counselor Harder?
Yes.
Counselor Heath?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Tyros?
Yes.
Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
President Kaczynski?
Yes. 10 yeas, the motion passes. Item 10704, an ordinance to amend the Code of the City of Gardner by adding a new chapter entitled Litter and Handbills. Is there a motion? Counselor Craig Cormier?
Move to send the item to second and final printing.
Motion made by Counselor Craig Cormier, seconded by Counselor Hardern to send the item to its second and final printing. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes. Moving into new business, Counselor Heath.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to go ahead and thank the mayor for earlier explaining the taxes. I actually had a constituent earlier today who just got her tax bill, and I feel like everything he just said touched every topic that she brought to me. So, to a Miss Lewis A, I'll call her, who has called me earlier. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with her. However, she voiced her concerns, and I'd just like to say thank you, Mayor, for explaining that. And everyone get out to the Food Truck Fest this Saturday. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Tyros.
Nothing new this evening. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor General Lowitz.
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Mack.
Nothing new this evening, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Craig Cormier.
I have no new city council business. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Boudreaux.
On June 25th, an explosive good time was had by all where wards 3 and 5 meet at Kendall Pond. I would like to thank the mayor and the council and the police, fire, different members clubs from the community for all getting together to put on a great time. There didn't seem to be any issues, and the fireworks show was outstanding. I am looking forward to what we will do over the next year with the 100th anniversary, noting that for year 237 we went off. So thank you to everybody involved in that. It was a good time, and that is all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Harder?
Nothing this evening, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Walsh?
Yes, a couple of things. Well, one thing in particular, I appreciate the mayor explaining here at tonight's meeting, as well as the other efforts made to explain the inversion of the tax rate versus the preliminary tax bill versus the valuations that are used to, or the assessments that are used to calculate the preliminary tax bills. It's a little complicated, a little confusing, but we have to explain it to our constituents as best we can. And I think the efforts that are being taken to do so hopefully will meet the challenge. The other thing, when I received by email the mayor's announcement last week to all the councilors explaining that what this anomaly was, that had come to exist, and explaining that the maximum we can increase our tax levy is by 2.5% from the previous year, I reminded and encouraged the mayor that although we're permitted to increase it by 2.5%, we're not obligated to. And we can do lower than that if the circumstances justify, and if there's a supplemental budget based upon the new growth and anticipated tax levy, we'll have the opportunity to address that topic at that time. So look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Ron Cormier?
Yeah, briefly, we had two items that were placed on file this evening, and one of them was a notification of a Mass Trails grant award. The city has been working long and hard for years and years to develop a rail trail system, and it came out this week that we received, I think, a $245,000 grant to help plan and further the process. Now, wherever these rail trails are, they're always well received. It's great. It's a multi-use trail, and to expand the ones we have is commendable, and this is a great news. The other one is a notification to approve Vacant Storefront program. It's something to help merchants, storefront owners, to improve the looks of their downtown. We took action a couple of weeks ago to try to improve a couple of parks, to try to improve the appearance of our community. We know we have new landlords in town who've already made efforts to bring these buildings up to snuff, and this is another step forward in trying to make Gardner. We have to make ourselves look better, and this is another part of it. So I just thought it was important to make note of that, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor. I have no new business this evening. I will entertain a motion on the floor to adjourn after closing prayer.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Boudreaux, seconded by Counselor Mack. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Almighty
Father, who sees over all, as we adjourn, we thank thee for the opportunity of joint deliberation and action witnessed during the course of the meeting. Bless, O Lord, all who are gathered here, and the people whose representatives we are, and do thou attend to our common welfare until our next meeting. Amen.
Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.